And on this video, we're going to go over the state of the 2021 Seattle Mariners. Let's get into it. What's going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast on the Laracuente Ledger Network. And as I said in the open, today we are going to be discussing the state of the 2021 Seattle Mariners. But before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already done so, you smash that subscribe button down below, as it helps us tremendously here move up the YouTube algorithm and allows us to continue bringing you content each and every single week. So let's begin looking at the moves that the Seattle Mariners would make this offseason. And there really weren't very many, as this is going to be a rebuilding team. But more on that later. When we look at the moves that were made, the big one is bringing back James Paxton. Now, Paxton would spend the majority of his career in the major leagues with the Seattle Mariners before being traded to the New York Yankees. When you look at what Paxton can be, this is a guy who was once looked at as a potential ace and front of the rotation type starter. However, injuries have been the biggest derailment of that projected positioning of James Paxton. But there's reports now that he is at his healthiest that he's been in a very long time. And if that is the case, James Paxton is very easily a potential contender for Comeback Player of the Year. And if he stays really healthy in that expansive ballpark, he could find himself among the Cy Young Award contenders as well. The other major move that the Seattle Mariners would make would be bringing in Ken Giles. Now, the reason this move is quite curious in my opinion is the fact that Giles will be basically unavailable for the 2021 season as he's recovering from Tommy John surgery. So this move is more so about potentially banking on a very viable back end of the bullpen type of a pitcher in 2022. Now, what makes this so interesting is the fact that the Mariners really aren't in a position where they're going to compete even in 2022, let alone 2021. So signing a guy who's been considered somewhat of a head case in Major League Baseball for a 2-year deal to see what he can do after recovering from Tommy John surgery is, again, a very curious move in my opinion. Now, if 100 Miles Giles can get back to being that type of pitcher that we saw him when he was with the Phillies, then that's going to be a much better deal and a much more significant move in 2022. And it would also give the Mariners an opportunity, if they are not in contention in 2022, a potential trade candidate and valuable asset as well. So now let's get into the state of the rotation for the Seattle Mariners. When you look at this team, they're definitely going to be employing a 6-man rotation. The aforementioned James Paxton, Marco Gonzalez, Yusei Kikuchi, and Justice Sheffield are going to be the left-handed options, and the right-handed options are going to be Chris Flexen and Justin Dunn. When you look at what this team is going to do, they're definitely, in my opinion, going to roll out a 6-man rotation, and arguably through the majority of the year. Again, dealing with James Paxton, he is an injury concern each and every single season, so you want to be able to make sure that you're limiting his potential for overexposure and allow the entire Mariners team to kind of grow into being a contender in future years. So seeing what you have with some of your young players, as well as filling that with veteran presences who can kind of do the majority of the work and the workload for the Mariners rotation. This also is an opportunity for the Mariners to kind of showcase some of these starters who are not going to be here when the team gets good again. So guys like Paxton, Gonzalez, and Yusei Kikuchi, who are veteran players who could easily be moved to a contender at the deadline and receive back for the Mariners some valuable prospects as long as these guys are pitching well. And in that expansive ballpark, it's very easy to see how they could put up some great statistical value numbers. So now as we jump into the state of the bullpen for the Seattle Mariners, it's going to be a hodgepodge, a smorgasbord of arms being thrown out of the Mariners bullpen. There's no doubt about it in my mind that this team is going to have a makeshift bullpen. There's going to be a lot of guys who are going to be thrust in and out of that spotlight as the Mariners progress through the season. Rafael Montero, who was acquired from the Texas Rangers earlier in the offseason, is likely going to be the closer in 2021. But look for that to be a more of a closer by committee type position. Now, as we get into the state of the offense for the Seattle Mariners, to me, this is where this team is going to shine as best as they can in 2021. There are going to be players on this team that are very much worth watching and paying attention to. Guys like Kyle Lewis, Mitch Haniger, and Kyle Seager are going to be the 3 standouts, in my opinion, on this Mariners roster. When you look at Kyle Lewis, and I just want to focus on him for a moment, and don't misconstrue what I'm about to say, But Kyle Lewis is going to remind Mariners fans, longtime Mariners fans, of Ken Griffey Jr. Now, no, I'm not saying that he's going to be Ken Griffey, but I'm saying he's going to do things that are going to remind fans of Ken Griffey Jr. We've already seen it even in the shortened 2020 season where Kyle Lewis would be robbing home runs and grand slams from opposing players, similar to what the kid did back in the late 80s and early 90s. Now, sadly, the Mariners have not been in postseason contention since 2001. So this is a long drought, the longest active drought in the four major North American sports. And 2021 is likely to continue that trend, sadly, for the Mariners and Mariners fans. But there are going to be some assets, again, that we've spoken about that could potentially help facilitate a progression toward postseason contention once again for the M's. So now as we get into the state of the franchise, again, this is going to be a rebuilding team, and much like the Texas Rangers and the Pittsburgh Pirates, who we've previously covered here on the Laracuente Ledger Network and on LaracuenteLedger.com, the Mariners are facing a tough road in terms of rebuilding in the American League West, as the Angels, Astros, and Athletics are all going to be beating up on this M's team. Now, as I said, the rotation, the six-man rotation that the Mariners are likely going to employ, has some really valuable starters and guys who, if things break well for this team, they're going to have guys that they can trade and regain and rebuild that farm system even faster, as well as having some guys on the offensive end that fans can rally around and also values to trade from. So this is going to be an interesting team to watch as the 2021 season unfolds. It's going to be a long season for Seattle Mariner fans, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel with some of these players and the potential for trading away assets that they have this year for gained assets in the future. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comment section below, and we will discuss it further. As always, if you haven't already done so, make sure you smash that subscribe button as well as the like and the bell so that you're notified each and every time we drop content. To get the full Laracuente Ledger Network experience, make sure you head over to patreon.com, search for the Laracuente Ledger Network, and join us there, as your support is what allows us to continue bringing this content each and every single week. So I will catch you guys when the latest news, notes, or my personal thoughts, theories, and opinions have to be dropped about the game of Major League Baseball. Peace.